Bertrand Russell wrote, "From his early interest in mysticism, Hegel retained a belief in the unreality of separateness. The world, in his view, was not a collection of hard units, whether atoms or souls, each completely self-subsistent. The apparent self-subsistence of finite things appeared to him to be an illusion. Nothing, he held, is ultimately and completely real except the whole." But he differed from Parmenides and Spinoza in conceiving the whole, not as a simple substance, but as a complex system, of the sort that we should call an organism. The apparently separate things of which the world seems to be composed are not simply an illusion. Each has a greater or lesser degree of reality, and its reality consists in an aspect of the whole, which is what it is seen to be when viewed truly. With this view goes naturally a disbelief in the reality of time and space as such, for these, if taken as completely real, involve separateness and multiplicity. All this must have come to him first as mystic insight. Its intellectual elaboration, which is given in his books, must have come later. Hegel asserts that the real is rational, and the rational is real. He admits, and even urges, that what to the empiricist appear to be facts are, and must be, irrational. It is only after their apparent character has been transformed by viewing them as aspects of the whole that they are seen to be rational. The whole, in all its complexity, is called by Hegel, the absolute. The absolute is spiritual. Spinoza's view, that it has the attribute of extension as well as that of thought, is rejected. Wilber's project is entirely pointless. Everything he seeks to do was done centuries ago, in a vastly superior and more rational way, by Hegel. Hegel's system concludes with absolute knowledge of the absolute idea, the answer to everything. Why would anyone reject Hegel's rational absolute idea for Wilber's irrational non-dualism? In Hegel's system, the mind, spirit goes on a cosmic journey via its own construct, the material universe. This cosmic journey is none other than history itself, which embraces all ideas, all philosophy, all science, all religion, all myth, all politics, all economics, all sociology, all psychology, every aspect of human existence. Hegel's system already does what spiral dynamics and developmental psychology seek to do, but at a much higher conceptual level, and driven by the rational dialectical method, which unifies all things and brings them to their omega point, their terminus, their total synthesis, their absolute state. Why would anyone abandon Hegel's brilliant philosophy in order to adopt Wilber's half-baked mysticism, which is just modified Buddhism? Well, the answer is simple. Hegel wasn't an emotionalist. He wasn't a New Ager. He didn't support Buddhism or Hinduism. He didn't advocate meditation and mindfulness. He wasn't a love and lighter. He wasn't an empiricist. He argued for the concrete reality of concepts, and the evolution of mental, conceptual reality via the all-embracing dialectic. The kind of person that likes Ken Wilber has a totally different personality type from the kind of person that endorses Hegel. Hegel attracts thinking types and reaches an absolute conceptual conclusion. Wilberites are feeling types and reach a trans-rational conclusion, i.e. an irrational conclusion that serves their love and light emotional needs and abolishes rational conceptualism for the vague, inexplicable notion of non-dualism, which actually revels in being an impenetrable mystery. The Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy says, in his essay on natural law, Hegel criticizes both the empirical and formal approaches to natural law, as exemplified in British and Kantian philosophy respectively. Empiricism reaches conclusions that are limited by the particularities of its contexts and materials and thus cannot provide universally valid propositions regarding the concepts of various social and political institutions or of the relation of reflective consciousness to social and political experience. It cannot be stressed enough that empiricism can never grasp reality because empiricism is all about particularities. How can an individual person, who has nothing but particular, individual experiences, and has no clue about the experiences of countless other people and animals, possibly explain what reality is using nothing but his extremely limited, fallible, unreliable, phenomenal, delusional, subjective experiences? The whole project is fundamentally misconceived, yet it is what drives all Eastern and New Age mysticism, with its constant refrain that your personal experiences and your own path are all that count. The Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy says, formalist conclusions, on the other hand, are too insubstantial and abstract in failing to properly link human reason concretely to human experience. For Hegel, the proper method of philosophical science must link concretely the development of the human mind and its rational powers to actual experience. Treating concepts as mere abstractions is disastrous for intellectual development. It commits you to materialism, i.e., percepts are real, concepts are unreal. Why does science go so badly wrong when it attempts to explain ultimate reality? It's because it treats mathematics as pure abstraction, when in fact mathematics, conceptualism, is totally concrete, i.e., it has an ontology and is the very fiber and fabric of existence. If you can't identify what existence is made of, you will never explain existence. That's Rationalism 101. The Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy says, Hegel develops a philosophical theory of social and political development that correlates with the self-development of essential human powers. The phenomenology of spirit provides what can be called a biography of spirit, i.e., an account of the development of consciousness and self-consciousness in the context of some central epistemological, anthropological and cultural themes of human history. The dialectic of self-determination is, for Hegel, inherent in the very structure of freedom, and is the defining feature of mind, spirit, Geist. The full actualization of spirit in the human community requires the progressive development of individuality, which effectively begins with the realization in self-consciousness of the truth of self-certainty, and culminates in the shape of a shared common life in an integrated community of love and reason. Finally, in the idea, the correspondence of the notion or concept with objective reality, we have the truth of objects or objects as they ought to be, i.e., as they correspond to their proper concepts. The history of spirit is the development through time of its own self-consciousness through the actions of peoples, states, and world historical actors who, while absorbed in their own interests, are nonetheless the unconscious instruments of the work of spirit. Hegel wrote, world history is the necessary development, out of the concepts of mind's freedom alone, of the moments of reason and so of the self-consciousness and freedom of mind. All actions, including world historical actions, culminate with individuals as subjects giving actuality to the substantial. They are the living instruments of what is in substance the deed of the world mind, and they are therefore directly at one with that deed, though it is concealed from them and is not their aim and object. Never forget, if you're interested in real integral, drop Wilber and embrace Hegel. Once you have mastered Hegel, you can advance to the ultimate means of unifying everything, ontological mathematical monism, based on the single master principle of existence, the principle of sufficient reason, the only true explanatory principle. The PSR incorporates Occam's razor, and thus generates the simplest possible answer to existence. Anyone who opposes the simplest rational answer is by definition wrong. Do the math.